Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari returns from Cameroon with a firm commitment to kicking out Boko Haram from Nigeria's borders. Former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, laments insufficient funding for the military, confesses he led an ill-equipped armed forces. Celebrating the media doyen at 80. And Afghan and Taliban peace talks put on hold following the death of Taliban leader Omar Mullah.
And on business news tonight, it's earnings seasons. Bittersweet results continue to stream in from companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
And on sports news, Chinazom Amadi upsets Commonwealth champion S.A. Brume to win the women's long jump title at the All Nigeria Athletics Championships in Warri.
We begin tonight with President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to Cameroon. The president today returned from the country after a two-day visit, during which he was assured by the Cameroonian president, Paul Biya, of cooperation in the fight against Boko Haram's insurgency, despite the borderlines. Both leaders also discussed strategies to allow military forces pursue Boko Haram militants across the borders and improve trade relations. President Buhari believes that insurgency must be tackled from all fronts as a wave of attacks spill into Cameroon, Chad, and Niger Republic. He says, "We recognize that none of us can succeed alone. In order to win this war, we need the collective efforts of each one of us, standing together as a formidable force for good to defeat and end these acts of terror against our people." Staying with security, for a four-star general to admit that he presided over a military that is less equipped to protect the nation's territorial integrity, then he calls for urgent attention from the federal government. Former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, who was formally disengaged from the military in Abuja today, confessed that the army suffered neglect in the past years, particularly in terms of funding. He said it made it difficult for the army to collectively combat the insurgency in the northeast since it did not possess sufficient weapons and equipment at its disposal. The former CDS also urged the federal government to increase its funding for the armed forces.
As I finally disengage, I have this final message for my countrymen and women and the armed forces of Nigeria. I want to state emphatically that no nation can achieve its full security potential by totally depending on other nations for its defense needs. The lessons of the Civil War and the ongoing war against terror, where certain countries frustrated their attempts to procure much needed weapons, are very instructive. Permit me to also add here that nations' militaries are equipped and trained in peacetime for the conflicts they expect to confront in the future. Unfortunately, that has not been our experience as a nation. Over the years, the military was neglected and under-equipped to ensure survival of certain regimes, while other regimes, based on advice from some foreign nations, deliberately reduced the size of the military and underfunded it. Accordingly, well, when faced with the crisis in the northeast and other parts of the country, the military was overstretched and had to embark on emergency recruitments and training, which were not adequate to prepare troops for the kind of situation we found ourselves in.
59 civilians held captive by the Boko Haram group in Borno State have been rescued by troops of Pt.1 Brigade and elements of the Nigerian Army Engineers. The troops also cleared the terrorist camps at Chogori and Chantumari, Borno State, as part of efforts to rid Nigeria of insurgency. According to the Army spokesperson, Colonel Sani Usman, during the offensive, the fleeing terrorists left underground silos. He also adds that the troops of 151 Task Force Battalion conducted operations on Kashingari, Wali, and Kushingari, all Boko Haram terrorist camps, killing a number of terrorists and recovering vehicles. The outgoing Director of Defense Information and Chairman of the Forum of Spokespersons of Security and Response Agencies, Major General Olukolade, has handed over leadership of association to the Director of Information, Nigerian Navy, Commodore Kabiru Aliyu. Olukolade formally informed his colleagues about his retirement at the monthly meeting of the Forum, having reached his retirement age. The retiring defense spokesperson, in a disclosed statement, said that he ought to have left the service since November 2014 when he applied for voluntary retirement, but was not obliged by the Army Council, who extended his stay in the service on the grounds that it was not proper for him to go at that time. Meanwhile, Major General Olukolade will next week hand over to Colonel Rabi Abubakar, who has been appointed Acting Director of Defense Information. Let's talk more now on these claims made by the former Chief of Defense Staff that the military is poorly funded and under-equipped. I'm being joined on the News at 10 by retired Colonel Hassan Stanlabo. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thanks, Honorable.
I'm sure you heard the former Chief of Defense Staff make his comments during his disengagement from the military, saying that the reason why the military was not able to defeat Boko Haram in the past few years was because they were ill-equipped. What do you make of that statement? You were in the Army up until 2010 when you retired. Was that the same picture that was being portrayed?
Thanks so much. Quite all right. That was just the picture we left behind. I must tell you this. I know as when I was living in 2010, I told myself clearly that the Army was highly deficient in certain areas. Equipment, manpower, you mentioned it.
Really?
Because, yes, sure, we saw it coming. Except those who didn't want to see it.
And for how long had this been going on?
For quite some while. For quite some while, we have neglected the military. Our government, our politicians have neglected the military for quite a long time ago. Because probably we felt we had no threat.
And why had this never come up in any discussions? I mean, the president's past president has been holding meetings with Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the present president has also been holding meetings with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and nobody's mentioned anything about the military not getting enough funding.
No. Now that we are in a new dispensation, we want to believe that things will take shape. If we want to ask ourselves why, we all know the why. We are a bunch of corrupt elements. You know that.
Is that your opinion?
It's my opinion, which I'm entitled to, and I want to let you know it's a popular opinion.
By men of the military?
It's a popular opinion even by Nigerians.
Okay. We've heard stories about some members of the military abandoning their positions when Boko Haram comes calling. Could this sort of claim by the former defense chief also be responsible for this, the fact that the military is not equipped to face Boko Haram?
I wouldn't know how much true that is, but the fact remains that if really men are abandoning their posts, part of the reasons could be informed by the absence of equipment. If I'm not well equipped to face a given situation, do I want to fight Boko Haram with the biceps of my muscles? No. I need to fight Boko Haram with equipment.
I'm sorry I have to take you back to some of the things that you said, which is that, you know, when you were in the military, it was under-equipped.
Sure.
When you joined the military, so the time you left, was that really the same story?
We dare not compare when I was leaving the military and as at when I joined. As at when I joined, my God, the Nigerian army or the Nigerian military, so to speak, was the attraction of every young man. I came into the military, in my own case, it's an exceptional case. I came in at the age of 14.
In what year?
Okay, way back 1974. Okay, with Chris Colade, who is retiring, that's my classmate. We went into Nigerian Military School, Zaria, together. Okay, we met people like the present Chief of Defense Staff, Lawrence Shaki. They were in Form 2, we were in Form 1. So right from Form 1, we were already carrying guns as soldiers. Okay, we were known as boy soldiers. And you progress on there into your university. Eventually, you go to the Defense Academy. And of course, you earn your commission as an officer eventually. And you are fully a soldier. Okay, so when you look back to when we came into the military, I cannot dare compare it to today. If this was the picture I met as at then, I dare not go into the military. What for? But then it was a thing of attraction.
And then you had equipment.
Oh my God, everything. When I say everything, everything, my dear, maybe let me just tell you this, that even as at 1974, 75, at the age of 14, 15, I could afford to pay school fees for some of my own siblings from the £1 per month which I was being paid as my first allowance. Then, the military gave me everything ranging from my towel to your pants. The military is one organization where welfare, when we talk of welfare, the level of elasticity in the definition of welfare in the military, I would say has no end. Because you have to make sure these men are so satisfied that they can lay down their lives for their country. That is why when you hear the American soldier says he can lay down his life for America, he knows what he's talking about. How many Nigerian army soldiers can lay down their lives for Nigeria? I want to believe General Buhari will turn all this back again to what it is to be.
Colonel Hassan Stanlaba, I'm afraid that's all we have to leave it. Thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
I appreciate this.
I've just been talking to Colonel Hassan Stanlaba, a retired colonel with the Nigerian military. In part 2, after the break, APC House of Representatives members reconcile. Plus, NCAA gives 30-day ultimatum to airline debtors to pay up service and cargo charges. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.